Hi guys, and welcome back to another Doctor Who preview. Now today we'll be previewing the 10th episode of Series 10, The Eaters of Light, written by Rona Munro, the last ever person to write the last classic Who story of Doctor Who. And she's back with her first modern Doctor Who episode, The Eaters of Light. So sit back and enjoy my preview of The Eaters of Light. Wait, hang a minute. Wait, I feel something wrong. Something's gone badly wrong. What? Oh my gosh, I feel it. The creature's here. No! The light's gone off! Oh my gosh, the creature's here. Oh my gosh, I can't see anything. The light just vanished. It's time for the preview. Hi guys, I am back with another Doctor Who preview, and today's preview we'll be previewing episode 10 of Doctor Who Series 10, The Eaters of Light, which sees the return of the first classic Who writer to return to the new series, and she is the last classic Who writer to write the last classic story for Doctor Who, Survival. And I thought Survival was generally a really good episode. I think Rona Munro, as a writer, she's a fairly decent writer in my opinion. And when I heard that she was going to write her first new modern Who episode, I was really intrigued. Although she's done the last classic Who story ever televised, Survival, I was thinking to myself, how could she differ her writing style from a classic style writing to a modern style writing, if you know what I mean, from classic Who to modern Who. I was seeing how could she do it, and we'll just have to find out in a couple of days time, whereas, or actually tomorrow, we'll actually be looking forward to The Eaters of Light. And The Eaters of Light sounds like a really good title. I'm seriously looking forward for this episode. I mean, beforehand, I wasn't really much interested with this episode at all. I didn't have much on my mind at all when I thought about The Eaters of Light. I thought really not interested at the time. Obviously, my history is really bad, and I didn't even know what the 9th Legion of the Roman Empire was at the time. And so I had a deep thought, and I had a real good read of this new article. Yes, we see the return of the Doctor Who magazine. Yes, I bought a new Doctor Who magazine just a couple of days ago, and I found that I really need to buy this. And yes, I haven't had a Doctor Who magazine in a preview for a while. I think the last time I had a Doctor Who magazine article in my previews, I've had it in Thin Ice, and that was it. No more Doctor Who magazines in my previews. But yes, we see the return of the Doctor Who magazine. And yes, I've had a great read through the Eaters of Light article, and wow, it just shows that how Rona Munro, as the very last classic Who writer to write Survival, and also to discover her life's work from during her time in 1989 to all the way to now, it's quite remarkable that she's one of the best playwrights of all time, as Stephen really says over and over again. But yeah, I was really interested when I read this article, and I feel more excited and more intrigued for The Eaters of Light. And just to say this right now, Nardal's wearing an orange dressing gown. Like, alright, maybe he's probably watching, you know, probably he's sleeping in the TARDIS somewhere, but there is actually a nutshell, which I'll probably get to a bit later on. But Nardal in an orange dressing gown, any thoughts? It seems really stupid, but I cannot wait for this episode. I feel so intrigued for it. And so yes, we might as well make a start on the synopsis itself. So, a long time ago in a faraway galaxy. No, I'm only kidding. A long time ago, the 9th Legion of the Roman army vanished into the mists of Scotland. Bill has a theory about what happened, and the Doctor has a time machine. But they arrive in ancient Aberdeenshire, which is now called Aberdeen. What they find is a far greater threat than any army. In a cairn on a hillside is a doorway leading to the end of the world. Quite interesting their synopsis, and I like it how it's stating the obvious. The Doctor has a time machine. Obviously, did he? I didn't know that the Doctor had a time machine. But mentioning about a long time ago, the 9th Legion of the Roman Army vanished into the mists of Scotland. That's actually a real thing. The 9th Legion of the Roman Army did vanish into the mists of Scotland. It really happened. So maybe Rona Munro's going to take this story in a much different direction from her classic Who stories, but I think she's going to take a twist on it. I think she's going to take non-fiction and bend it. I like it how writers do that, because it's something that's put out in modern society. It's non-fiction. This actually generally happened. They just generally vanished into thin air. And Rona Munro might exploit this in some way by taking non-fiction and bending it in some way, giving a modern twist on it. I'm really looking forward to it, because I love it how Doctor Who does that a lot. Taking non-fiction and twisting and bending it and moulding it and shaping it. I love it how Doctor Who does that. It's just such an iconic way of building up a really great story. And obviously my history isn't up to scratch, so I'm not too sure about the 9th Legion and the history. But then I commented on one video, and then this entire guy, I can't really remember his name, but he gave me a long list of what the 9th Legion was all about. So they actually gave me a history lesson of what all these theories were about the 9th Legion. So I learned something there, so that's actually quite nice. And I'm probably not too sure what his name's called, but I think he did give me some great information about the 9th Legion. So I'm actually happy about that, so thank you very much, whoever you are. I might leave a link in the description of where I had my comment posted, so yeah, I might put that down. Anyway, the synopsis does sound really interesting, and they arrive in early Aberdeenshire, which is now called Aberdeen, and Rona Munro was actually born in Aberdeen, and she's actually doing this episode in her hometown, which makes me think that this is a very personal episode. And I'm really interested to learn a bit more on how the 9th Legion of the Roman Army vanished into the mists of Scotland. That's probably my theory I'm thinking about. That maybe this creature that we've seen in the next time trailer, the Eater of Light perhaps, maybe that creature is the cause for causing the disappearance of 5,000 men of the Roman army disappearing into the mists of Scotland. Perhaps that might be the cause for it. Or it could be something completely different. And I'm really excited for this unknown creature called the Eater of Light. I think that this creature called the Eater of Light, I probably suspect that this creature will probably eat light and probably live on light for a long period of time, and then maybe consumes it in some way that maybe it stays dark all the time, because the actual setting of it looks amazing. I mean, the setting of Aberdeenshire looks brilliant, CGI looks amazing, and I'm really excited for this episode, because this episode looks extremely dark. I just love episodes when they basically put a dark context and they really do episodes in a dark surrounding area. I love dark settings. They really make me so intrigued. I love dark settings, to be honest. I think out of all my favourite sceneries or settings in an episode, having a dark setting is always a thumbs up for me, always. So that's something for me to look forward to. And how this creature consumes light and lives on light, and how it's dark all the time, really intrigues me. And then there was something at the end of the Next Time trailer where the Doctor was looking into another portal dimension. So maybe this is where this creature comes from, or perhaps maybe it's just been evolving in the natural habitat in Aberdeenshire. So maybe it's actually just a real creature that just actually exists in early Aberdeenshire. So do I think it's from another dimension? Possibly. But there's always the other conspiracy that this creature might be living on the Earth, or it just must have evolved or something like that. Might have had a few mutations and stuff like that. But we're not too sure. I'm really looking forward to see what this actual creature of light. And I think it might be the cause for what caused the Roman army to disappear into the mists of Scotland. That's what I personally think. But it could also prove something else as well. So we'll just have to wait and find out. Now, mentioning about this amazing article that I've had a look at, The Eaters of Light. Just really explains about how Rona Munro has taken the ideas of how the Ninth Legion of the Roman Empire, and she's completely theorized everything about it, and she's put a few modern twists on it to make it really, really interesting. And she's always been fascinated by history. I think history was one of her best subjects, and for her to put a context into this episode really, really interests me a lot. I mean, the Ninth Legion and the Romans always really intrigue me. I've not really had the best learning ability for history at school. I've always been really bad at history, but learning about it though is one thing that I've never had the chance to. But this episode, I really love history, and sometimes when I learn about history, sometimes I can never theoretically process it all. I can't really fully endure it as much as I would like to. But sometimes history in very small little bits. I like Doctor Who episodes when they're providing a whole lot of history content, because I can really process it all. But just doing history at school, I could not do that. History at school is much difficulter than doing Doctor Who historical episodes. I like Doctor Who when they do historical episodes, because they really project a historical content that makes it quite subtle for you to learn, but it doesn't really shove it in your face. That's the reason why I like historical episodes in Doctor Who. Rather than doing loads and loads of history in school, I'd rather learn history through Doctor Who, in my opinion. I think that's the best way for me to learn. And I'm so excited. And there is one quote right here, which I'm really liking. The disappearance of 5,000 strong Ninth Legion, one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, and Roman Britain's most enduring legends, is ripe for the Doctor Who treatment. I love that. That's amazing. How the Doctor Who magazine editors put that in there. Oh, it's just one thing I love about the disappearance of 5,000 men of the Legion, of the Ninth Legion, disappearing. And that's something very bewildering me at all. I'm destined to find out the solution, finding out the answer to the disappearance, to the Roman Empire disappearing in the midst of Scotland. I'm so intrigued for it. Gosh, it's like one of those, it's one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, and this episode might provide an answer for it. Definitely. I'm so looking forward to it. And let's mention about the overall nutshell of the episode, as I've got the Doctor Who magazine right here, obviously in my hand. Whatever happened to the Ninth Legion? Bill thinks she knows, the Doctor thinks he knows, and Nana thought they were having a quiet night with a box of popcorn. But why watch TV when you have a time machine and an inquiring mind? Quiet nights with a box of popcorn. I think I quite know what Nardole was doing wearing that dressing gown. I think I know what Nardole's doing in this episode. I think he's wearing this orange dressing gown, and I think he's eating popcorn and binge watching a lot of box sets lately. That's what I think initially. But seeing Nardole in an orange dressing gown is like, what? Are you seriously kidding me? He looks ridiculous. But I find it seriously hilarious. Oh, I cannot wait for Nardole, because I know that when I read about this article, Rona Munro didn't really feature Nardole for this episode originally. She really added Nardole as a late entry, and she wasn't really going to feature Nardole at all. But I'm glad that she's added Nardole into this episode, because I would be a bit disappointed if Nardole wasn't featured. Because I think Nardole might provide something extra in this episode. And obviously this is the penultimate to the finale, which will probably get the best next time trailer for the finale, which I'm so looking forward to. But I'm not too sure if we might expect a cliffhanger or so. Maybe we might get a cliffhanger, because always at the end there always has to be an intense cliffhanger of some kind. And I'm not too sure whether this series will go in the direction of where Series 9 went to. Maybe the next episode will be like Heaven Sent, and then perhaps maybe the Doctor falls. Maybe that episode would be like Hell Bent. No, let's not think about that. Let's leave that for now. Let's not think about Hell Bent or what this overall finale thing could be for this series. Let's morely focus about this, because Rona Munro is a really great writer. I sometimes see her as a very underrated writer, although she's done survival. But I think she's mentioned a few little references to survival within this episode, which I actually quite like. And obviously she was a bit, you know, concerned about Bill being gay. And I think sexuality at this time didn't really matter at all. But then in her episode Survival, it also had a little reference to that as well, like with Ace and also with one of the cheetah people. I think they were having like kind of like a lesbian sort of like sexual relationship. And I think that kind of had a little great notice within this Doctor Who magazine, as they've mentioned a few little references through Survival within this episode, The Eaters of Light. And also you can see in this photo right here that the Doctor and Bill, they're somewhere dark but also probably in danger as well. So potentially this episode will be a very strong and intriguing episode. History has always intrigued me, as I said. I've always loved historical episodes through Doctor Who. And the Romans though. Mentioning about this little boy here, I would probably think that he almost looks like Rory the Roman, but unfortunately he doesn't look like Rory at all. But I love the costumes of the Romans, they look amazing. And obviously Romans, they always intrigue me through Doctor Who episodes, like the Romans through William Hartnell's era. You had the little Romans you had a little short little scene where the Romans in the war games were charging towards the Doctor, and I really like those Romans appearing in like Doctor Who episodes. I think it's something new and I really like it. And I think they probably need to do more Roman stories. And I think this is where Rona Munro got her idea of using Romans and exploring the Ninth Legion, of how they actually disappeared in real life. And I think Rona Munro's going to explore this a bit more, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I think Stephen Moffat might have had his inputs into the episode also, probably guiding Rona Munro, because she is a very classic Who style writer, and for her to do a modern kind of style episode is quite difficult, because if you see about like doing classic Who stories, they're basically, I don't know, a dozen million scripts, you know. It would take literally about, I don't know, about 60 pages worth of a script for a classic Who Doctor Who episode, whereas like a script for a 45-minute episode of the new series of Doctor Who would usually take mainly about 10 pages or so. But I think it might be a bit relaxed for Rona Munro, I think. But I'm overly looking forward for this episode in particular, because it's something really amazing. That's the last ever classic Who writer who wrote Survival, and she's coming back to Doctor Who to write her very first modern Who episode. And I think after this, many other classic Who writers will be doing the same. Like, I don't know, I'm not too sure if any other classic Who writers are ever alive right now. I know Robert Holmes is, you know, unfortunately dead. Robert Sloman, maybe. Don Houghton, I think he might have died as well. I'm not too sure. David Whittaker, Terry Nation, I think he might have died as well. I think I'm remembering all of these past classic Who writers that might come back, but I think most of them have passed away. So I think Rona Munro might have been the best option to bring back some youthfulness to the new series, but also portraying a great idea about the Ninth Legion of the Roman Empire, and how this creature, the Eater of Light, can be the cause for it, maybe. Or maybe this creature is consuming all of the light and living on it, but then the Romans find out that this creature is the cause for all of this, of all of the things to go completely strange. Or maybe this creature, the Eaters of Light, seems like a really good creature. I mean, I like when Doctor Who portrays a monster or a creature that looks incredibly dark and really mysterious and really creepy, and it just blends in with the dark setting of the dark forest. I really love it. I think we've seen most of a few promo pics for this episode, especially with one person, or I think it's one Roman, I think, that basically gets pulled in by this creature, by all of the tentacles, and I think it's draining all of the light from his inside body, or maybe it's just killing a lot of Romans willy-nilly. But also this creature likes to consume and live on the light, and I think maybe the Romans might use the light as an advantage to kill off the creature, maybe. But I sometimes see this creature as a creature from another dimension, or it could be an adaptation of a creature that lives upon the earth. So it could just live within the surroundings of Earth, or it might have just came from another dimension, who knows. But this creature really sounds interesting, or it could be that maybe Missy might have brought this creature to probably haunt the Doctor in some way. Or maybe that Missy's going to turn good, but the Doctor doesn't realise that Missy has turned good. Maybe Missy's going to be quite devilish and quite mean again. Maybe she's going to forget all about this goodness for forever, and she's going to be, you know, returning to become all bad. She maybe put out that creature from that another dimension. Maybe she sends the creature over to where the Doctor is and kind of haunts him a bit in some way. And strangely enough, about mysterious and dark objects within this episode, as well as the creature, there's also a raven in this episode, which obviously, to my mind, first thought to my mind, Face the Raven. But this raven is very, very different from Face the Raven. This raven can actually speak, and actually spoke the words Doctor. And I'm not sure if this raven might have a reference to Face the Raven from Series 9, of where Clara died, in fact. And maybe this might bring up some memories of where Clara might have died or something like that. Maybe it could be a coincidence that a raven is just there, just talking, you know, randomly and unexpectedly saying the words Doctor. So maybe it could be just a coincidence, or it may not pull up a reference to Face the Raven at all. It could be something completely different, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and find out. However, I do like Nardole with his worried face on. He looks absolutely so scared, and I feel like this episode is going to be quite interesting in my opinion. Oh, it's nice here, isn't it? And like basically that's what Nardole says within that photo. Nice here, isn't it? And then basically they have people throwing spears at the Doctor and Nardole, and they're probably wondering how to get out of this. But really, this episode seems really interesting. Obviously, as a classic Who writer, doing a modern style Who episode is quite difficult in a context where you're trying to provide something that's like classic Who, but also trying to put it into a context that is like, you know, classic Who, but where in fact it's modern Who. So Rona Munro has actually been given a much difficult task, because I don't think she even remembers doing most of the writing for Survival, but I think she remembered some bits of where most of the time we all knew it was all coming to an end. And then when she was writing this, as you know, it's been explained in this article, she was very worried about keeping up to date with all of the other writers to write all the rest of the episodes for Series 10. I think she felt a bit left behind, because I think she wasn't getting much help, and I thought she was a bit dragging along. And I thought that she, in this article, she mentioned about messing up a lot, because I think at the time when she did Survival, she knew that she had her mindset of doing her best episode so far. And obviously, looking at it back at it now, it has been old, and many people think it was a good ending for her. To do her first ever story for Doctor Who, but also being the last story for Doctor Who itself. But maybe she's had a bit more lightheartedness for this episode. I think she's been told to take it more gently this time. I don't think she's been rushed by this writing at all. I think she's merely just taken her time with this episode, and I think she's carefully thought about this episode with all the details, including the creature, the Eater of Light, the Doctor, Bill, Nardole, and also with the Roman 9th Legion as well. So I think she's taken this episode quite seriously, and I think she's carefully thought about this really well. And the director, Charles Palmer, who also did my second favourite episode from Series 10, Oxygen, is also directing this. So I'm expecting big things from Charles Palmer as well. And also he did other stories like The Shakespeare Code, Human Nature and the Family of Blood. Some really good episodes from his lineup. But maybe this also could be one of them as well. And I'm really hoping that Rona Munro does a really fantastic job, because if it's this or Survival, which can I judge is better? My guess is it could be this one, because the Eaters of Light is something new. It's something intriguing. The 9th Legion of the Roman Empire is something I've not really touched upon, but I really want to find out the answer to what happened to the 5,000 men of the 9th Legion and how come they disappeared. No one knows the truth about it, but I think Rona Munro might exploit this episode in a non-fiction way, but bending it slightly, trying to keep on the context that you cannot break history, and I think she might know the answer to how all of the Romans died out within this episode. I just really hope that maybe this episode doesn't have the same result as what happened in Knock Knock, of bringing all of the characters back in the episode. I probably just hope that maybe she sticks to history and sticks to time of what's, you know, you cannot break the laws of time. Basically, I think she might kill off all of the Romans in this episode, as how history took its course, its natural course. So maybe I think that's what Rona Munro is planning to do. She's trying to exploit this episode in some way by giving people, young people, and obviously she really likes the young audience for Doctor Who, and I think she's really interested, and she's really interested to teach people a lot about the 9th Legion of the Roman Empire and how this one of the history's most unsolved mysteries is about to be unfolded. We'll just have to find out for this episode, but overall I'm really excited for this episode, especially with Nardole's orange dressing gown. I mean, just looking at it now, Nardole's orange dressing gown is so disturbing, but really, I can just clearly see him binge watching a lot of box sets with a lot of popcorn as well. You hardly see Nardole watching a lot of box sets and binge watching with a lot of alcohol and popcorn. Don't you really see that? I clearly see that from Nardole. Oh yeah, but again, there were Romans and the 9th Legion, the best fighters in the world. So how exactly did 5,000 men just vanish? One of history's best, most unsolving mysteries of all is about to be unfolded within this episode. I'm clearly looking forward to it. The Eaters of Light sounds like a really interesting title, and the whole story itself looks really dark and looks unbelievably exciting. The creature looks amazing. I'm really interested to see how these Romans play out, but also there's also a different side to, like, you've got the Romans, and also Rona Munro mentioned about a new race of other barbarians called the Picts. I'm not too sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think they came before the Romans, and maybe they could be like barbarians or something like that. But there's also another group that came before the Picts, and I think that's basically the group in this episode, and I think that's going to be very interesting to see how this unknown group is fighting up against the Romans in a different battle. So it could be the barbarians or the Picts, or pre-Picts, or should I say, are fighting up against the Romans, and maybe they could be the cause for what caused everything. I mean, I'm not really 100% sure what this episode is going to bring, but I can surely say I'm intrigued, I'm interested, and I'm really hoping that Rona Munro exceeds with this episode, because I really hope that she does not waste this opportunity of coming back to Modern Who and writing herself her very first Modern Who story for Doctor Who Series 10. I really hope it all goes well for Rona Munro, because I'm seriously looking forward to this more than anything. At first, I wasn't really intrigued because history wasn't my strong point, and I have no idea what the 9th Legion was all about. But now learning about it now and reading this article, which I highly recommend, guys, you pick up this article on, you know, the Eaters of Light right now. If you ever see this or ever see this magazine in the shops, I highly recommend you buy it, and I hope you make sure you have a good read of it before the Eaters of Light airs, which I will personally do as well, because this that article there is really something else. I'm really loving this article because it's very interesting to see how a writer from 1989, at the age of 29, wrote the last ever story for Classic Who, Survival. And right now, here in 2017, she's writing her very first Modern Who story for Doctor Who Series 10. What more could you expect? I mean, Rona can actually do a really good job, or it may not be up to our standards, but we must give all writers a second chance. Same with Frank Russell Boyce, Wayne Yip particularly, and also Peter Harness as well, and then you've got Jamie Heaton. All these writers who've done bad episodes or sort of good episodes, and then they succeed in series 10 to do a much better episode is what I'm expecting. And I love the idea of taking non-fiction and shaping it and molding it and bending it in some way that exploits it and really just shows something amazing that we haven't known about this like 9th Legion with the Roman Empire. I'm so looking forward to it. So that's really all I had to say about this, but at least this Doctor Who magazine will be coming back because it also has the next preview for World Enough and Time, the first part of the Series 10 finale, which I hope this Doctor Who magazine will provide a bit more on for the next episode. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching for this preview for the Eaters of Light. I hope you have enjoyed it. Make sure you leave a like on this video and also comment down below what you think could happen within this episode, because I'm clearly intrigued for what to expect about these 9th Legion, one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries of how 5,000 men just disappeared in the mists of Scotland. How did that all happen? This episode we need to find out. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and remember to get your comments in the comment section down below and tell me what you think could happen within this episode. Could we expect a successful episode from Rona Munro, or we might expect a quite unfortunate, disappointing episode, which I really hope that doesn't happen. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this preview and I'll see you guys next time for my review for the Eaters of Light. And I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.